Hey guys, what's up? Thank you so much for joining me today. This is FI-LOSOPHY. Today's video is all about FIRE on a lower income. Can it be done? Let's find out. So I'm going to give you my 7 tips for firing on a lower income, the things that you should be focusing on. Let's jump in. My first tip is to focus on lowering your expenses to a minimum that you're comfortable with. So a lot of people might recommend that you just lower your expenses to the absolute bare necessities, but personally I think that is not really the best way to live, and you want to build the life that you want before you actually start saving to retire. Because if you limit yourself and deprive yourself of all the things you want in life, by the time you retire, you're just gonna have inflating costs because you're gonna wanna finally treat yourself and do the things you wanna do. So focus on getting your expenses down to a bare minimum that you're comfortable with. For me, that includes a pretty decent sized amount of money for traveling, eating out, and doing social things. There are a lot of things that I don't purchase. I don't purchase brand new clothes. I thrift everything. I cook a lot of my meals and I treat myself to eating out once or twice a month. Home items, I tend to thrift a lot of those things. I don't buy a lot of brand new items just in general, but it's okay if you value buying new things like furniture or purchasing expensive clothing. Just make sure that you get yourself to a bare minimum where you're still getting the things that you want and value without compromising your FIRE journey if that is something that you really want to pursue. So work on setting up a budget. This is always number one in personal finance. Make sure you know where your money's going, what's coming in, what's going out, and cut down on the things that you really don't value. Get yourself to a point where you're at your base amount that you're comfortable with, where you're still getting the things that you need and want within reason. My second tip is to work on increasing your income. So once you have your basic amount that you want to budget for, you can see if what you're making right now is sustainable or if you need to work on increasing your income. You could pick up a second job, you could start maybe some kind of side hustle, doing something that you enjoy, or you can start going back and getting more education, going back to school and pursuing a different career. I have personally worked 2 jobs in the past for about 4 or 5 years so that I would have a little bit more play money and be able to spend on travel while also saving up for FIRE and getting a larger savings rate. So this is something that I think a lot of people who are not making a ton of money should be focusing on if financial independence is on your list as a goal. This is not something that everyone has to focus on, but if you do want to achieve financial independence, retire early, making sure that you're at your base amount of expenses and then increasing your income is going to make your journey a lot easier. My third tip is that you might need to change your living situation or actually move areas or cities in order to pursue those better paying jobs. Me personally, I am from Ottawa, Ontario, which is kind of notorious for lower paying jobs, at least when I lived there. And at the time, Alberta was paying a lot more for the same type of work. That is the main reason why I moved here, and also the main reason why I stayed. You might have to move to a different city, different province, maybe even a different country in order to increase that income amount. Alternatively, you could look at your living situation. If you currently live alone, maybe you could live with roommates. If you live with your partner, maybe you could downsize to a smaller apartment or move to a different area with a little bit of a longer commute. Any way that you can alter your biggest expense, which is for almost everyone, rent or living expenses. If there is a way that you can lower that, that will make a huge difference in your just overall expenses and your ability to achieve FIRE. My fourth tip is to figure out your why. I'm going to link a video I made about a year ago about why FIRE, and this will help you to determine why you want to pursue FIRE and what your ideal lifestyle looks like. Do you prefer a lifestyle like a nomad? Do you like to travel around and just work enough to cover your expenses? Do you want to eventually purchase property? Or do you have huge dreams where you want to buy a yacht or buy a plane or do something crazy and just have a ton of money that you want to be able to spend on whatever you want? You have to figure out what your core values are and figure out why you want to pursue FIRE in the first place. This will give you a much better view of what your FIRE number might actually look like and if it's possible on a lower income. My fifth tip is start as early as you can. Compound interest is absolutely everything when it comes to investing. Compound interest is essentially the money you put in making money, and then that money that this money made is making money, and it just keeps going and going. So the earlier you invest, the better. Regardless of whatever amount you can afford, get started as soon as you possibly can, because compound interest is going to be your biggest friend in terms of building enough net worth over a long period of time to be able to achieve FIRE, even on a lower income. Tip number 6 is to utilize your tax advantage accounts and also to get your workplace match. This is my number one tip to anyone who's starting investing or getting into the FIRE movement. Always make sure if you have an RRSP or American or other country equivalent of a retirement plan where your work will match your contribution, make sure you're getting the absolute max match you can afford, because that is free money. That is an immediate 100% return. You will get that nowhere else. If you put in $50 and your employer matches $50, you just doubled your net worth right there. So make sure you're getting that at the very minimum. After that, try to put money into things like RRSPs and TFSAs so that you have a little bit of tax advantage when it comes to doing your taxes. If you're putting money into your RRSPs, you're saving a little bit, or you're deferring that tax amount to the future when you are in retirement. With the TFSA, you are protecting any kind of gains that you are making in the market from getting taxed as income. So this is hugely important. Make sure that you are utilizing all of your tax advantage accounts, getting your work match before you even consider doing something that is taxable. My 7th and final tip is to wait to have kids if this is something that's in your plan. If you are able to wait a few years before having children, if you're on a lower income, this gives you some flexibility in being able to move around, try to find better paying jobs, get yourself set up so that you have a little bit of a cushion before you do have children, because children are very expensive. There are a lot of costs associated with having kids. If you don't have the foundation set up before you jump into having children, this could pretty much eliminate the possibility of you reaching FIRE on a lower income. So if this is part of your plan and you don't have kids yet, but you plan on having them at some point, I would say to push that off as long as you can, so that you have a lot more time to build your income, lower your expenses, and find the place you want to live in for the longer term. Of course, if you already have children, you do have to work around this and focus on the other 6 items so that you can make sure that you're on a path to achieving financial independence. So I hope some of these tips have helped you guys. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.